Welcome, everyone. Good to have you here this morning. And do we have a treat for you
Yes,
today?
we're so
Some of our favorite
excited.
people in the whole world are with us, and we're so excited about it.
Yes, we welcome these wonderful youth and we invite you to read their bios. They're all exceptional. And two of them are our grandchildren and two of them are our adopted grandchildren. And they have had an amazing experience that they will share with you today. And so as you get on and you're listening, please let us know where you're listening from. And we express our gratitude to High Five Live for these beautiful, inspiring broadcast opportunities. So here we go, guys. We have Connor, right? Connor, and we have Seth and Annie, and we have Abby. So here we are starting to talk about something very, very amazing and life changing, right?
Happens to be it's July, and July reminds us of the remarkable legacy that comes to us from our pioneers and all that they've done, and our founding fathers and all that they've done. So this group has just been on something lovingly called the Pioneer Track. And it's the only time they go out in the middle of the wilderness and suffer and call it great. Right?
And they have learned so much. You know, it's very interesting to me that if you think about all the places that the Savior taught and the kinds of settings that he created so he could have an environment to teach in that it would help people understand his words. And to me, the trek is like that. It's a beautiful thing that the church has provided for youth all over the globe to experience learning about their heritage and their ancestors and the gospel in a beautiful, amazing, incredible setting. And so this setting has been created. And what did you think when you heard that our state was going to do trek?
And how did you prepare? Say a word about how you prepared for the trek.
Connor, let's have you first.
All right. So I was a paw, so I had to prepare for that a little differently than some of the other kids, but I prepared by going on hikes with my Trek family, and
Really?
yeah, we watched some Pioneer movies, and we got together a lot and just made sure that we got really close before Trek so that we could have more fun on Trek.
What a great idea.
Great. That's good.
Great. What else did you do, Abby?
Well, Annie was my mom. We, like a week before Trek, we got together. We watched Nacho Libre to have a little bonding experience together as a family.
I love it.
And we planned pranks to pull on other families if we wanted. We didn't really do a lot, but it was just fun to spend time together. And me personally, I just wanted to try and be a little closer to the spirit before Trek. And so, leading up the week before, I just tried to be really consistent reading my scriptures and doing family history work and doing a little bit of indexing, reading up on my ancestors who were pioneers, stuff like that.
So you also picked an ancestor, didn't you? Or?
Yeah, and we wrote bracelets with our ancestors' names on it to walk with them.
So cool. That's great.
So exciting.
So Annie, what kinds of things did you do to get ready?
Annie Ma.
Yes.
Annie. I was Abby's mom, and Connor was actually Seth's paw.
Yeah.
So it's fun. But
you got your kids here.
Yeah, my kids. Something interesting was that because of COVID and other complications, Trek was postponed quite a few years. And so there was no lack of anticipation. Everyone was super excited to finally go. So I think everyone was just kind of buzzing the whole time because everyone was super excited for it to finally happen because they'd been waiting for it for a few years. But like Abby said, we bonded with our families and we got flags made for our little hand cards, and we all chose our ancestors, and which pushed us to study at least one story. And so we all went into Trek having a story and having an image in our mind of what it was really like for them, which was really important.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So true. Seth, what do you want to add?
Yeah, I gotta say that those hikes were great, and being able to bond with the family before, and Connor really did a good job doing that. making sure the family bonded together. Yeah.
That's such a great
Fantastic.
idea. I had not heard that you'd done all that, and that's an amazing way to get ready. So fun. And
Absolutely.
then the day came, and you were heading out early in the morning.
And we all sewed skirts and bonnets and found hats and, you know, so to look the part, right? Let's just show our, let's see if we can add this. There we go. Let's see. We want to start at the beginning here. Show you a couple things. So there is our ward, and this was a stake. So there were a ton of people that went, a ton of youth, a ton of leaders. And
Well,
there they all.
400 people or something. What was it? A huge crowd, right?
Look at them. Anyway, they looked the part for sure. And it was not an easy trail. Do you want to tell us just a little bit about what it was like to actually be walking that many miles together?
Almost everybody got blisters and everyone was sore, but I don't think I've ever seen people so happy or connected in our ward. It was awesome.
Yeah.
It was just life-changing. And you know, at the end, you know you've had a good trek when nobody wants to come home, right? So tell us about this experience. This is part of what happens. It's optional for wards to and stakes to do what we call the women's pull, right? And you can decide if you want to do it. And what is the reason for it? Annie, do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I'd love to. The all-encompassing reasoning behind Trek is to gain an appreciation, empathy, and testimony of our early saints. And a lot of that is just speaking of their struggles and admiring those things and thanking them for those things. And one thing we specifically outlined in what you just saw, which was the women's poll, is how many early saints at some point either carried their husband in the cart or came on their own or lost a husband or any number of reasons that would push a woman on and her kids to be going on her own. So on what I considered to be one of the hardest miles or two of the trail, the boys went ahead of us and the girls did it on our own. And Abby and I, the Abby that's here, we actually were right together, and it was such a blessing because we were the entire time just saying keep going and affirming each other the entire time and praying, and it was so awesome. But it was really hard. But then Abby actually was able to speak before, and I think it fueled us, and we were so determined and so excited and like just kind of pushed by gratitude, like, man, I can't believe they did this, rather than, oh, I can't believe I'm doing this, you know? So everyone kept saying, I've never felt so strong, or Abby kept saying, I've never felt so beautiful. And it was just awesome. We came up over the last hill and we could hear like the roar of the boys cheering for us. And I think originally they had planned that they would sing us in, but a leader told me that wasn't going to happen because they saw the girls and they just started cheering and cheering and cheering for them. So all of the carts of girls slowly came through, and we were near the back, our ward was. So Abby and I specifically the whole time were like picking flowers, like every wildflower we ever saw. And then as we rounded that top hill, we came closer and closer, and we saw our ward boys in the front corner, and they all had bouquets of flowers for us, ready for all the girls in our ward. So it was so sweet. Yeah.
So Connor and Seth, what was that like to see them come around the corner like that?
Have Abby talk as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
Abby, you want to add? Okay, Seth.
I think it was a great experience to see all the girls have all that experience, because seeing their faith get strengthened through that made the boys see that and see how much strength they got. Abby, do you have anything to add?
Most definitely. The women's poll was definitely my favorite part of all of Trek. And like Annie said, I had the opportunity to talk in front of all the girls beforehand, before we went up. And I could just tell, like, you could just feel that, like, so many girls were just so scared and so nervous to go up this hill because one of the leaders told me that this was the longest women's pole that they even have there. I think it was like a 1.5 2 mile hike, and it's like on an incline the whole way up. But then there's like 5 hills, like mixed into it.
They were all
It
really
was hard. It was
Yeah,
so
it
hard.
was really hard. I will admit it was very hard, but we were helped.
Yeah. Oh, most definitely. And before we went up, I talked about like just asking for your ancestors to walk with you and to be with you, and that you'd be able to feel them. And then after I talked, I realized I was like, I'm so grateful that song because hopefully all the girls will be able to feel their ancestors with them. But Annie and I both, we were like sitting in the back of the cart pushing together, and like the whole time, like Annie was saying, like we were just like shouting like positive affirmations like to our whole family the whole time. But
You could
I'm
do
pretty sure the entire time Annie and I would just like look at each other and we just had like the biggest smiles on our face, even though like our
Yeah.
calves are burning and like we're tired and we're sore and we have blisters. And there was a couple times like where Annie and I would look at each other and we'd kind of be like relax and kind of catching our breath, and we would like look up in front of the girls and like they would kind of be relaxed and not really pushing that hard, and like the cart would still be moving, and we're like, and like just the spirit of our ancestors there with us was incredible. It was so cool just to feel like going before Trek, knowing the story of my ancestor and then being able to recreate it. And the women's pool is what really opened up my eyes to like why we even do Trek. Like sitting there looking around, like why are we all like just walking around the middle of nowhere, like for fun? Like what is this? Like we all signed up for this willingly. But the women's pool is the one thing that really opened up my eyes of like we are representing our ancestors to be able to show our respect for them. And like after the women's pool, like I could just feel that like my ancestors like had so much respect for me and so much love for me because I was willing to come out and like just walk for 4 days, like in remembrance of them and remembrance of the hard trials that they went through. So the women's pool was so impactful to me.
Who did you walk for, Abby?
My ancestor is Mary Ann Thane, so she was my 4th great grandma on my mom's side. Yeah.
Oh. Connor, who did you walk with?
So I don't really have pioneer ancestors, but I chose a significant ancestor for my dad, but it was Tonus Andreas Jakobsen.
And where is your family from? Where your dad's family?
From Norway.
Mm-hmm. So you have some awesome stories of your ancestors, and you know the trek is to honor all of those who have paid a price to join the church, to move forward, to strengthen their testimonies and leave a legacy, right?
Yeah.
So amongst all that part of the wonderful experience, seemingly near the end when a thunderstorm rolled through your camp, right? You had an experience that none of you will ever forget. Huge thunderstorm, lasted for a long time. Packing all of you in one little tent, 10-man tent with 30 of you packed in. Why don't you tell us some about that?
I can talk a little bit about that. So yeah, it was the day of the women's pool. After that, we had planned to do a bunch of skits telling the story of Joseph Smith and the trials that he went through and some of the early pioneers. And that was the original plan, but due to this massive thunderstorm rolling in, they told everyone, you know what? No, we're okay. Just go to your tents, get out of the rain. So at first, everyone kind of went to their own tents, and then I don't know who went around exactly, but they came around to our tents and were like, "Hey, everyone, we're gonna gather in a tent. We're gonna have a little family testimony devotional meeting thing." So we all get over, and we're trying to squish into this massive tent. You've got people laying across each other, people holding buckets. Yeah, people are just squished in the corner. It's just, we all felt so close.
You were so close.
Quite literally so close, but also you could just tell that everyone was just on a spiritual high at that point. And after that, it just got even better. So we had our honorary bishop's couple because our actual bishop couldn't come. But they gave some fantastic talks on their conversion stories and how they really felt the gospel. And that personally, that whole experience was just jaw dropping. It felt so magnificent the whole time. And so by the end of their talk, they opened it up for everyone else to bear their testimonies. And one by one, almost everyone got up and bore their testimony in the most heartfelt and spiritual way I've ever known. It was truly a once in a lifetime experience to be able to get to know these people for their true spirit self, and to be able to see what who they really are when they feel completely comfortable and completely vulnerable. And it was just magical the whole time.
Wow. What can you add, the rest of you?
Oh, thanks for sharing that, Connor.
Beautiful, Connor.
I think for me, kind of what Connor was talking about at the end of just how everyone was just so vulnerable, and like we'd each get up and like, at least for me, like I was like sitting in a puddle of water at the bottom of the tent, and we're all covered in 3 days of dirt and sand and pioneer clothes out in the middle of nowhere, and a huge rainstorm, and all of us are just like, we sat in that tent for like I think like 2 or 3 hours, and you could like hear all the other wards just like being rowdy and crazy and screaming, running around, and like our cute little ward is just like stuffed inside the 10-man tent, having the most like I'm pretty sure that's what heaven feels like. Like I was looking around, and usually I'm a sucker for testimony meetings, and I'm just bawling the whole time. And at the beginning of this testimony meeting, like I was just looking around, and I was like, this is the true church. Like this is it. Like why else would we all be here? Why would we all be testifying of the things that we believe in of our ancestors if it wasn't true? And then just the love of like that I could feel just for everyone in that room, and we're all so vulnerable and so open and just so close to the Spirit. It was incredible. It was so wonderful.
What else do you want to add, Annie and Seth?
Like Abby said, I think it was so wonderful that we were literally in the middle of nowhere, Wyoming, and it was raining and like thundering, and like Abby said, everybody was like everywhere. Like you could hear people screaming and like running around, like trying to get things done, but we were all like huddled in a tent, like crying our eyes out and like feeling Spirit like a lot of us had never felt before, and it was so sweet. But for me, one of the like dearest parts of testimony meetings is like the afterwards. Like we closed in like a family prayer, so to speak, and then we all like got out of the tent and we're just like hugging everyone. Like we all hugged everyone, and it was, I love that part of testimony meeting, that you feel so connected to those people, especially when you're so vulnerable. And so many people shared really dear and personal stories and experiences that have either impacted their testimony or they're struggling with. And so everybody like all inclusively got to know each other so much better in just a couple hours in a tent. And so we were just hugging each other. And I think that feeling will stay in the ward a long time. And like the next night as well, we all just were like huddled again, like we couldn't leave each other. And when it was time to go home, we were all just like, man, you know, like, and like afterwards I've gotten so many texts like, I'm having withdrawals, you know, like we have to get together. And like ward level and stake level, like at a stake level, they've been like having night games and stuff like that. Like everybody was just like, oh, we all live near each other, but now it's like, man, I'm so grateful we're by each other. Let's be together all the time. You know, it was so sweet. Yeah. Heavenly Father knew we all needed it. It totally happened that way. Yeah.
Very true.
Right.
And I feel like in that testimony meeting, I feel like our ward, our youth is amazing. You know, I feel like we have such great people. I feel like everyone is such spiritual giants. And, you know, just being able to hear everyone's testimony and hearing everyone be so honest, you know, having everyone really just talk about their struggles, you know, is amazing. Seeing how some great people I know still can struggle, you know?
Yeah.
How it doesn't matter, you know? And it feels so good because now, like, our ward, no matter how close they were before, 10 times closer now.
That's amazing. But you're already close.
Yeah.
So as you're talking, I'm thinking about your ancestors. I'm thinking about how they felt about your sacrifice, how they felt about your testimony meeting, and what that reunion is going to be like with them. A lot of what you experienced is the same kind of feeling I think we'll have when we get a chance to meet them again and they come up and hug us and thank us and thank you all for the kind of remarkable youth you are in the midst of a crazy world. And yeah, I don't think this is a one-time experience. You're going to have this more times than one.
That's so true. And, you know, all 4 of these youth are youth temple and family history consultants in our ward. And the last few years, as we have studied the ancestors, their ancestors, and how to find stories and how to do family history, we've used the family history guide in our meetings. And honestly, these 4 could take anybody who wants to learn about how to do family history, how to learn the stories of their ancestors, and they could teach them. And they do. And I just want to express gratitude to you for doing that, for jumping in, for following the prophet's counsel to gather Israel on both sides of the veil. You are doing that. And this trek just kind of solidified so much of what you've been working on the last years, right?
So true.
Yeah.
I even have Abby say before, the way I prepared when I was going to go was to do family history because I wanted the spirit and I wanted to do some indexing and other things just to kind of prepare myself. It's just that very thing that we do for life too. We prepare ourselves the same way.
That's exactly right.
So maybe there's some last things you each want to share. This has been amazing.
I know.
have just loved
Thank you for
so
being
much
with
being
us.
with you.
Yeah. What else would you like to add before we close?
I'll just say that it really is crazy how simple of an idea of walking the trails, trying to experience that piece that, well, trying to experience the struggles that the pioneers felt.
In a little bit, right?
Yeah, how remarkable of an impact that can have. I'm just thinking about how much of a testimony builder that was for us. We only did it for 4 days and we struggled a little bit, but to think about how much our ancestors struggled and how much they went through, they had to have incredible testimonies to be able to go through all that and to be able to suffer that much just to be able to come closer to this gospel and to be able to learn more and to be able to feel the spirit that much closer. It's just incredible.
So
Thank you.
And I just want to add something on real fast. I think something else for me that I absolutely loved on Trek was hearing everyone else's family stories. Like Annie and I on the Woman's Pole, we were sharing our ancestors' stories of coming across the plains, and I think not only learning about my own family stories, but my friends all around me and their stories. And Connor mentioned the skits that we did and hearing those stories of other early pioneers and what they went through. It just like put all of it into perspective of hearing about like heartache and having to bury babies or having to bury like their husbands, or like walking without shoes in the cold and snow and like across rivers, up hills, but like by yourself, and like being out there doing like the very bare minimum of like the trials that they went through, just put all of it into perspective. And I'm so grateful to whoever came up with the idea of Trek, because I don't think I could have ever had as much appreciation as I do now for all the pioneers and all that they went through, and have such motivation now to continue to like learn about pioneers. Like now that I feel like I have that connection with them, I can just like continue to learn about them and continue to have like re-spark that connection with them, which I think is really special.
Yeah, beautiful.
Thank you, Abby.
Well, I feel like for me, the leaders who came on Trek put so much work and time into Trek to make it such an amazing experience for all the youth. And it paid off, and everyone had such a great time. You know, no one wanted to leave at the end. I feel like it was a great decision to have some of the older kids in each ward be Ma's and Pa's, because it already like strengthened that relationship that you had with them, you know. And I feel like it was just such a great experience to have amazing people as your Ma's and Pa's.
Amen. So Annie, tell us a little bit about this picture.
We had a bunch of the graduating seniors, or just the older kids, stand on the side of a stretch of the trail and hold up a printed testimony. And I think this is really impactful. Like, just like Seth said, those leaders really carried us and prepared such wonderful things. But I feel so strongly after this trek that the youth not only of our ward and our stake, but just overall are really the hope of the world, that we are the hope of Israel, that we are meant to be here when we are to gather and to represent and to love and teach this gospel. And so it was really cool to be one of those kids to stand on the edge and see everybody read your testimony and to share it like that. And it kind of lit a fire in me as well. And I got, because everybody had gone past us, I got to walk in the back with the other seniors that had just done. They were all like, oh, that was really cool, you know? But I think Trek and similar experiences given to youth are so critical right now, because Satan is so angry that we are so good. And he's going to be attacking more and more every day. And I can feel it. And I know Seth can feel it, and everyone can feel it, that the world can feel so dark and so scary. And it just feels like it's a downward spiral every single day, everywhere you go. But something like this happens. And I just came home, and my journal entry, the beginning of it was, I can't believe these youth, we are the hope of Israel. That I'm so excited to see where all these people go, and these sweet testimonies that have been cultivated on planes and in chapels and in conversations. It's all very, very sweet to see. And I'm so excited to see where all these kids go. And I know that the experiences they had on Trek will go with them on missions and go with them into parenthood and help them and their posterity through the scary world. Yeah.
Absolutely. Oh, thank you for sharing that, Annie. And maybe in closing, could you just tell us a little bit about who you walked with?
Me?
Yes.
Yeah. So I walked in behalf of Sarah Elizabeth Baker, and that was especially impactful in the women's pool because she did a lot on her own, shocking amount, but she had a lot of kids already and was very, very pregnant and very, very sick. And so she was sick to the point of a coma, from what I understand, or like basically considered dead already, couldn't walk, couldn't be dragged any longer. So they left her, their pregnant mother, all of this large slew of kids, and the father had to leave their mother on the side of the trail. And then
they thought she was going to die, right?
Yeah, they were like 100% sure there's no way she's making it. So the company leaves. She recovers herself enough to give birth by herself. She births a baby, and then another company comes and takes her in that had better provisions and a better path, I guess. And so they beat her original company to Zion. So when her family made it to Utah, they thought their mom was dead somewhere. And then when they were coming in, she had beat them there. And so there stands their mother and their baby brother to welcome them. And I can't imagine how that would feel, because you had no idea, right? So it was so wonderful. And I just love to picture that. But that baby that was born on the plains is my ancestor. I am from his line. Yeah.
Such a beautiful story. And you know, for all of you, someday we will meet person to person those ancestors who sacrificed so much for us. And I can't even imagine what it will be like to try to express gratitude. I know Sarah Elizabeth Baker Maxwell that you just talked about. She's one of the ones I want to meet first. And I think I'll just kneel down at her feet and just, I don't know how I'd even begin to express gratitude for that kind of a sacrifice. And that's why we're here. That's why I'm here. That's why Seth and Annie are here. And, you know, I am looking forward to that. Aren't you? To meet these ancestors that are so dear to us.
So some of you probably heard some of those handcart pioneers were in a meeting one day, and a man got up and started to criticize them for coming and saying maybe that was an uninspired little trip. And a man stood up and said, "You don't know of what you speak." And he talked about Nellie Unthank, who had both her legs amputated when she got here, and raised multiple children. And she used to say, the best way to raise children is on your knees. And he stood up and said, "We met God in the extremities of our life out on the plains." And I think what we feel is that you met God in this opportunity out on the plains too. And we're so grateful for that, for all the leaders and everyone that did that, and to our And sisters, how could we ever be thankful enough?
You are so wonderful. Thank you. And thank you for sharing the gospel. I know Annie and Connor are getting close to leaving on missions next year, right? And at least for Annie, Connor, you're getting closer, right? We're so excited for that. And I know Trek will make a big difference in how you prepare for your mission and how you share the gospel. And, you know, not everybody will have an opportunity to go on Trek, but they can listen to this broadcast and hear your testimonies about how you got to know your ancestors. And there are so many ways to get to know those who went before us and to help them as they helped us by doing family history work for them by proxy. And I know all of you, each one of you has a testimony of the temple and what you can do to honor and serve those who went before us. Thank you.
We love
so
you all so
much.
much. And please share
Yes.
this with others. It's an amazing, amazing memory and experience.
Yes, it is. Thank you. Have a wonderful day, everyone.